I spent 40 years working in the woods of Vermont. Vast majority I was working alone. And about probably 10, 15 years ago, quite a while ago, I was working this job up in Underhill on what was known as the old dump road, old abandoned town road, not 2 miles long. And I improved the road for about the first half mile so I could get a log truck into it there and to the landing. And I always kept, most of my career, I always kept a little shanty on my landing, especially during the winter. And this job I was starting right about this time of year. My shanty, I had a nice little wood stove in it and a little bench for sharpening my saw, and I could keep warm clothes in it that I could change into and stuff, and I had a little radio and stuff. It was my logging headquarters. I love that shanty. My dad made it for me. Well, anyway, right off the bat, starting out there, I started to have problems with unwanted visitors on my landing when I wasn't there. Won't go into detail, but I come into work one Monday morning and my shanty doors are wide open and everything in my shanty scattered around the landing. There's beer cans all around and my radio's smashed, my chairs are all smashed up. But the worst thing they did was they smashed all the gauges on my equipment. I was pretty pissed. I was pretty hot. I mean, working in the woods is hard enough without having to deal with this shit. I mean, I got young kids at home, mouths to feed, bills to pay. So I called the state police and they sent a trooper out, and he was a nice enough guy, but he told me, he says, there ain't a hell of a lot we can do. He says, we're spread pretty thin, he says, and hell, even if we catch them, he said, we'll just, they're just going to get a slap on the wrist and we'll let them go. And he looks at me and he says, if I was you, he says, I'd take care of this problem yourself. Well, I was just pissed off enough, I knew just what he was saying and took him up on it. So I come up with an idea. My dad always told me, you come up with enough ideas, sooner or later you get a good one. This was not one of those times. Problems was always happening on the weekend, so that next Saturday morning I told my wife when I left, I said, I won't be coming home tonight. I said, I'm going to sleep in the shanty. Of course, after I left, I didn't tell her I didn't have no plans to sleep in that shanty. For a couple of reasons. First, obviously, I didn't want to get boxed into that shanty. Second is that I didn't want to just scare them off. I wanted to catch these motherfuckers. So at the end of the day of working there, I backed my truck up my skid road up on this little hill, nestled into this little grove of hemlocks there about 50 yards away where they couldn't see me. And I brought my camera, baseball bat, and right underneath my jacket, tucked right in my armpit and my shoulder holster, I had my Roscoe. Now, I wasn't planning on shooting nobody, but you gotta remember, I knew I was probably gonna be outnumbered. And most likely these guys was gonna be drinking. I'd seen all their beer cans. It was this time of year too, there's a goddamn good chance they was gonna have firearms. Well, I also knew I probably couldn't stay awake all night neither. So I brought me a big spool of heavy monofilament fishing line. I ran it across the driveway and through the woods up to my truck parked up there, and I tied it to my side view mirror and I put a little bell on it because I didn't want to miss the festivities. Well, I dozed off about 10 o'clock or so, but about 11 I woke up and that bell's just a ringing to beat three of a kind, and I got headlights on the landing. I bust out of my truck and I'm running down that hill to the shanty there. I got my baseball bat in one hand and my camera in the other. It was the state police. I gave that trooper quite a start. Damn near got shot. Well, I explained to him what I was doing. He looked at me like I was nuttier than a squirrel turd. As he climbed into his cruiser, though, he said, "Happy hunting, Mr. Torrey." But something good did come about it, though, because, there's a fair amount of people that have police radio scanners, and sometimes it's the lowlifes that are trying to avoid the police that have them. Because it wasn't only a day or two, I heard down at the general store that the scuttlebutt in town was, don't fuck with that logger up on the old dump road, because he's a crazy bastard. And I never had any problems with any unwanted visitors on my landing again.